So this is a second video for today, and it's actually on the notes of Slope-Intercept Form. So we did this class opener above that leads up to this, and let's begin by talking again about the word form. What does the word form mean? It's the way it looks, the shape, the organization, right? Let me move off to the side a little bit right here. So far, we already know about standard form. And standard form is simply capital AX plus capital BY equals capital C. And again, the capital A, B, and C are just numbers, and they're capitalized to help you to remember that you don't want fractions or decimals in standard form. What else do we know about standard form? They are great for finding x-intercepts and y-intercepts. And just as a review, how do we find the x-intercept? We set y equal to 0. And again, if we wanted to find the y-intercept, how do we do that? We set x equal to 0. And of course, after you set them equal to 0, you solve. And that'll tell you the location of where this line will cross the x-axis and the location of where the line will cross the y-axis. So standard form is great when you're trying to find those points of where the lines cross the x and the y-axis. But that's standard form, and we also already know about, which one's the other one? Function form. And what is function form? Again, it's the way it looks, and what kind of organization are we trying to get here? In this organization, we want y by itself. So as long as y equals something like 2x plus 1, that's function form. Again, form is just the organization of the equation. So standard form is where you have your x's and your y's on the left side of the equal sign, and you have a number c on the right side. Function form is where you have y by itself. Again, y by itself on one side. If they tell us to rewrite it in function form, all you have to do is solve for y to get the y value by itself. And what we're learning today is slope-intercept form, which is exactly function form, to be honest with you. Why do I say that? Well, because function form is y by itself, and slope-intercept form also has y by itself. So you're probably thinking, well, it's the same thing then. Well, technically, slope-intercept form is a lot more detailed than function form. Function form is just getting y by itself. Slope-intercept form is getting y by itself and then understanding what's on this side. As you could see right here, there's m being multiplied with x, and we should all know that, let me change the color on m. M is really slope. Okay, and what else? Slope is really a fraction rise over run. Okay, not only that, the rise, it could be positive if it's going up, or it could be negative if it's going down. The run, we're always going to look from left to right, so the run's always going to be positive. So keep that in mind, that the slope is really a fraction, rise over run. And this other new detail, the letter B. The letter B is going to represent the y-intercept. Okay, the letter B is going to represent the y-intercept. Now, we should already be familiar with the word intercept. What is the y-intercept? It's where your line crosses the y-axis, okay? So whatever number you have right here, let's do this also. M is just a number. Well, it's going to be a fraction, right? And even if it's not a fraction, you want to think of it as a fraction, so you could think of rise over run. Okay, so if you have a 3 right here, like y equals 3x, let's think of it as 3 over 1. You're going to rise 3, run 1. And the number that's all over here by itself without a variable, that's called the b value. And the b value is the y-intercept value. Now, what is the y-intercept? It's where your line crosses the y-axis. The y is the line, the axis that points to the sky, right? So, again, b is just another number, but it specifically tells you where it's going to cross the y-axis. So if you know this form, if you're familiar with this form, you could actually look at a line like this guy that we had up here, and you could give the exact equation that produces this line, believe it or not, okay? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we already know that the slope from here to here goes up 2 over 1, so the slope is 2 over 1. Now, what's this value? What's the b value? The b value is your y-intercept. So where does this line cross the y-axis? It crosses right here. And what value is that? It's 1, 2. It crosses at 2. So this equation right here would actually be the exact line y equals 2 over 1x. So you could just leave it 2x, or you could put the 2 over 1x, and then plus 2. Now y plus 2, because the b value is the y-intercept value. It crosses at 2. And like I said, this is the most important form, even more important than standard form, more important than function form, because it tells you more than just having y by itself. It tells you the slope, and it tells you the y-intercept just by looking at it. So just by looking at an equation, you're going to be able to graph it if you're familiar with slope-intercept form without having to do any math. So let's read along right here. Instead of using the 3 steps to graphing, remember the 3 steps? Step 1, get the y by itself, function form. Step 2, make an xy table. And 3, plot 3 easy points, sometimes 0, 1, and 2. But if you have a fraction, you have to use 0 in the denominator. And you plug each one of them in. It takes a long time, guys, right? Instead of using this xy input-output table, I'm talking about the same table that we did over here. I mean, look at all this work, right? We had to get the y by itself. And then we did an XY table, and we had to plug in 3 different times, do math 3 different times to get these 3 coordinates to graph it. It seriously takes a good 4 or 5 minutes. But instead of that, we're going to talk about y equals mx plus b. And check out these steps. Step 1, rewrite it in slope-intercept form, y by itself. Same thing as function form. Step 2, graph it. How? First, go to your y-intercept value, whatever's for b, and then from that point, rise and run according to your m. Okay, it's really, really easy. Try it. Check it out. So let's first make sure that it's in slope-intercept form, and the y is by itself. Okay, it's in slope-intercept form. Remember, y equals mx plus b. So how about this? Let's write it down. Our slope is 2, but better said 2 over 1. Don't include x, all right? It's just the value in front of x. Now the b value is -3. So with those 2 bits of information, we could graph it without doing any math. Could you believe that? I know, it's amazing, right? Okay, so check this out. It crosses where? Go to your b value, -3. So let's go to -3. We know that that's the y-intercept, so go to -1, 2, 3, and put a dot right here. Okay, so let's put a dot right there at -3. Now from this point, see, so far I know my y-intercept. That's what -3 is. It's my y-intercept. So my line could be crossing the y right there like this, or it could be crossing going up, or it could be crossing going up really steep, or maybe super steep, right? Or maybe super steep going down. But this is where it crosses, and that's all I know so far. In other words, I don't know the steepness. Let me actually put a line here. So as you can see, I know my blue line crosses right through there, whoops, but I don't know if it's steep going down, steep going up. I don't know the steepness. What tells us the steepness of a line? The slope does, right? So our slope is 2 over 1. So from that point, if I go up 2 over 1, I'll have my graph, and that's it. Now, you're probably thinking, what? How do you know that's your graph? Well, again, you put your dot at b equals at -3, at your y-intercept -3, crosses the y-axis at -3. Now from this point, what is your steepness? What is your slope? Your slope is 2. So in terms of a fraction, it's 2 over 1. So from this point, I'm going to go up 2, 1, 2, and then I'm going to go over 1. Boom. So if I put my dot right there, that's it. That's my line. And if you wanted to extend the line, if you didn't have a ruler and you want to extend the line, keep using your slope, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. And you'll have that perfectly straight line. And that's how you graph. Whoops. So let's try it on this next one. Let's graph y plus 1 equals 2/3 x. So first you want to make sure that it's in slope-intercept form, y by itself. So let's actually get rid of that plus 1 by subtracting 1 here. 1 take away 1, 0, and then subtracting 1 over here, which you can't really do. You can't subtract x's and numbers. So let me rewrite it, and this is my slope-intercept form equation. Y equals 2/3 x minus 1. And now that it's in slope-intercept form, we could clearly see the m value, which is 2/3, and we could clearly see the b value, which is -1. So if you know that your m is 2/3, it's going to rise 2 and run 3, but from where? It's going to rise and run from the b value -1. So like our notes say above, always start with your b value, -1. Okay, so that's the y-intercept. -1, let's put a dot right here. That's the b value of -1. And now from that point, I want to know my steepness of my line. Maybe my line's kind of steep, maybe it's super steep, maybe it's super steep negative, but we need to know the steepness. And how do we get the steepness? By looking at our slope, which is 2/3, positive 2/3. So because it's positive, I'm going to be going up, not down. So I'm going to go up how many? 2, because the rise is 2. So I'm going to go up 2, 1, 2. I'm going to go over 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to put a dot right there at the coordinate 3, 1. And now I'm just going to draw my line. Okay. Now let's say you wanted your line to be even further this way. Then just take that same slope pattern of up 2 over 3 and go backwards, over 3 down 2, over 3 down 2, and put a dot right there. Now you don't have to do this. I'm just saying if you wanted to and you didn't have a ruler, then you could make the line as long as you want by just using the pattern of your slope. Okay, let's move down to the next portion of our notes right here. It says down here, sorry, I kind of drew this line through our notes, sorry about that. Right here it says, not only can we easily graph, but we can also look at graphs and write the equations. As long as you have the m and the b, you can write an equation. Example, write the equation of the line that crosses the y-axis at -1 and has the slope of -2/5. Okay, so once again, you have to recognize what they're giving you. They're giving you the slope. This is our m value. And they're also giving us our y-intercept. It tells us that it crosses our y-axis at -1. That means that that's our b value. Now remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And of course, the two things that you need to write this is simply your m and your b, and that's what they give you. So what's our equation going to be? It's going to be y equals -2/5 x minus 1, or plus -1. But that's the equation of the line that has the slope -2/5 and the b value of -1. And that's when they just straight up give you the information. How about down here, they give us graphs, actual graphs, and they want us to write down the equation. So keep in mind, in order to write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form, there's two things that you need, m and b. Okay, so what is your slope? Again, slope is rise over run, and we're always going to look at lines from left to right. Now you could pick any coordinates you want, okay? So if you wanted to, you could pick this coordinate down here and this coordinate right here. Now, of course, you wouldn't pick something here because this would be halfway, so you want nice coordinates. So you could pick this one and this one, and how much do you rise and how much do you run? You rise 2, you run 1. So my slope is up 2 over 1, so positive 2 over 1. So my slope is 2 over 1, or again, you could always just say my slope is 2. I like to leave it as a fraction, 2 over 1, especially when we're dealing with the actual graphs. Now, you don't have to use these 2 points. They suggest that we use this point and this point, but you could use any points you want. It's still going to be the same, up 2 over 1. Even if you were to go from way down here to way up here, check it out. Up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and over 1, 2, 3. So if you did say, oh, it's 6 over 3, it's still going to reduce down to 2 over 1. 6 over 3 reduces down to 2 over 1. Now for the last thing that we need, the b value. The b value, again, is the y-intercept value. So where does this cross the y-axis? It crosses right here. And what is that value? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, and so on and so on. So this is the b value of 2. So if you have the m and you have the b, then you could write your slope-intercept form equation. Y equals 2x plus 2. And that is a slope-intercept form equation of the line that you see here. Okay. If you were to make an input-output table for this equation, you would get this exact graph. Or if you graph this equation, crosses at 2, and you go from that point up 2 over 1. So from 2 up 2 over 1, draw your line, that's it. So it's really easy to write down the equation of a graph that they give you, especially if you could clearly see your slope and you could clearly see your y-intercept. So if you know your slope and you know your y-intercept, it's really easy to write the equation. Start with the slope. What is our slope? Well, from here to here, it goes up 1, 2, and it goes over 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you say my slope is 2 over 4, that's correct. However, 2 over 4 could be reduced down to 1/2. So our simplified slope is up 1 over 2, and that actually makes total sense. Check it out. From here, up 1 over 2, that's on the line. Up 1 over 2, it's on the line. Up 1 over 2, it's on the line. So our slope truly is in its reduced form 1/2. Now the b value is right here. It's the location of where your line crosses the y-axis. Here's the y-axis, the line crosses right there, and that value is -2, right? -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. It crosses right here at -2. So the b value is -2. And now that you know that, you could write your slope-intercept form equation. Y equals 1/2 x minus 2. Let's jump to the last two right here. And then we'll practice graphing on the back side of this worksheet. So on this one, let's pick, they don't clearly tell us which points to use. In other words, we're free to use any points we want. So I could use this point right here and this one right there. Or I could use the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Or I could use this one and this one way up here. I'm just going to pick any 2 points. Actually, how about this? I want to pick all the points that are nice. That one's nice. That one's nice. That one's nice. That one's nice. And that one's nice. So I'm going to go for this one and this one to calculate slope. So what is my slope? From here to here, I go up 2 over 1. Okay? So my slope is 2 over 1. That's my slope. Now for my y-intercept value, where does it cross the y-axis? Does it cross at -3? No. Does it cross at -1? No. Does it cross at 0? At 1? At 2? It crosses at 2. So let me put that in red. Right there is my b value. And the b value is 2. So if I know my m is 2 and my b is 2, then I know my equation, y equals 2x plus 2. That's my equation for that line. Let's move on to the last one here. And on this one, they give us 2 points, okay? And you could use any 2 points you want, but I'm going to use the ones that they give us. And they even give you the coordinates. You could actually use the slope formula to calculate the slope. But it's visual right here. You could clearly see that from this point to this point, you're going down 1, 2, 3, and you're going over 1. So my slope is down 3 over 1. So my slope is -3, or you could leave it as -3 over 1. Now where does it cross the y-axis? Well, here's the y-axis. It crosses way down here. Okay, right here. And what is this value? That's -1, 2, 3. So -3 as well. So my b value is -3 as well. So my slope-intercept form equation is y equals -3 over 1x minus 3, or just y equals -3x minus 3, whatever you like. So on the next video, we're going to pick up the back side of this, and we're going to start practicing graphing with y equals mx plus b.